Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Abundology podcast. It's one of my favorite times of the year when I get to talk with one of my best friends, an astrologer, Deborah Norton. She's been my personal astrologer for, going on probably a decade now. So quarterly, we get together on the solstice and on the equinox and talk about what we can expect in astrology for like the next quarter of the year. So thank you, Deb, so much for coming back and talking to us again this time.
Of course. I'm always happy to be here.
I'm always interested to hear, kind of what's coming up, what we have to look forward to. So, you said there was a lot happening this summer.
There's there's going to be a lot of reviewing.
A lot of reviewing. Okay.
It's a strange summer of backwards motion.
So I take it then that we have a bunch of planets going retrograde from what you're saying. Okay.
That is right. That's the theme.
That's the theme of the summer. Okay. Well, you might as well just jump right in and let us know what's going on with all these retrogrades.
Right. Before I get into the summer of retrogrades, I do want to just mention that we're having some fun right now with Mars and Venus. They're dancing in Leo. And they're just, at some point, Venus is one of the retrogrades. And so that, Venus is going to cross back over Mars. So they're just dancing and kissing, and they had a little dance in Cancer. Now they're having a dance in Leo. And that's such a really potent, ripe time for creative energy, self-expression, and then this kind of like lockstep with what you value and what you desire aligning. That's pretty golden.
Yeah.
So if you're having any like epiphanies right now about the way that you want to reshape your life a little bit, and it's because suddenly you're very clear that your values are aligning with what you want, that's a golden moment.
Yes.
That conflict between what you want and what you know is good for you, or what you value in the world versus what you really just want, those don't line up all the time. Most of the time, unless you have a chart that aligns them. But this is for all of us to be like, wow, those things are in sync for the moment. What a great time to put out that creative force for whatever it is. So just take advantage of that. It can also be a time of intense drama in relationships, though. And so, that can be okay. That's not a bad thing. I watch people have drama on reality television all the time. It's not terrible to have drama. It's something that I think it's a bad rap. I think life is dramatic. There are moments in our lives, and especially in our relationships, when we just are just going to have drama. And in many ways, I feel like it's better to just get through it, have it, talk it out than not. Because if you're having a problem in a relationship and you're not confronting it, then you're going to be in so much more trouble if you just let it, go inward and just bubble.
Let it fester down in there.
Yeah. So it's okay. I really maybe it's because I have, my Mercury in Leo. So it's the way I think is super dramatic. But I always just think that people who say, oh, you're so dramatic. It's like, so what? Yeah, life is drama, and just sometimes the situation calls for it. At the same time, with Venus and Mars, that can really go over the top. So just be aware of that. If you get into any dramatic moments with your relationships, that, be aware that it's heightened. And so try to restrain from doing damage that you can't repair, like saying things you can't take back or making decisions that you can't reverse. So that's what I would caution.
Words of wisdom right there. We've all certainly been in that spot before. Yeah, that's for sure.
Everybody has. Yes. Yes. And if you have therapy as a couple, then, book an extra session. You'll get a lot out of it, I think.
Good advice. Advice. Yeah. So we have 2 planets retrograde right now.
Yes. So first, we had Pluto go retrograde. Pluto retrograde is about, and all of this is, okay, let me just first preface this by saying by the beginning of September, there will be 9 planets retrograde.
Wow.
It happens from time to time. I wouldn't say that it's ultra rare, but it is something to really be aware of. Like, I know obviously not everybody believes in astrology, but oh my goodness, like I'm just wondering what we're going to see come out of world events over this period of time.
Well, very interesting also, since the first few months of the year, we had no planets retrograde.
Yes. And boy, did I get shit done. I was like a force of nature, and I just couldn't stop myself personally. I'm just speaking for myself. Like I totally reimagined my astrology business, brand new website, tons of cool AI art that I've been working on, way more writing, lots of writing for me. And that's just been a joy. And I feel personally like I nailed that. How do you feel?
I think that you did. I'm talking about you for a second. I love what you've done, because I get your emails that come out, I don't know, once or twice a week, with anytime there's something changing in astrology, and they're like such a pleasure to read.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, like you're a really good writer, Deb. I had no idea.
Yeah. I used to want to be a writer back in college, and that's been a dream of mine for a very long time. And I just finally just kind of, dove in, and basically the emails you get, if there's a notable astrological event happening, you're going to get an email. I have not missed one this whole year. And it's and so that it means it could be 3 in a week, or it could be none for 2 weeks.
Right.
Or just recognize, if you do want to sign up, I would love it. I would love to have anyone sign my mailing list on my website, deborahnorton.com, and just be aware that's how it works, that you'll always know. And I try to do it with enough time ahead that you can, think about it before it's happening.
Yeah.
Thanks for reading.
They're wonderful. Yes, they're wonderful. Thank you for writing. I appreciate that. But I definitely have seen that the first few months of the year in my life too, with launching these spiritual practices that I'm doing, and kind of reimagining how I'm working. So it's been great.
And you're going through your Saturn return as well. So you've got that extra, focus, which isn't a bad thing, especially in Pisces, where Saturn is in Pisces right now, and you'll have Saturn in Pisces, which obviously makes sense. And so for all of us with Saturn going retrograde, it's really about reevaluating where you are putting all your focus and your time. So Saturn is focus and time. So, and then retrograde means reevaluate or review, or, it's all the words, which we say every time. So think about it every day. Where do you put your focus, and how many hours are you putting your focus on it, or how many minutes? And then just ask yourself, is that okay with me? Does that align with me? Or am I spending so much time on this one thing that I'm neglecting this other thing that I really want to do? For me, what that's looked like, and I've taken it to the mat, because of the writing situation. I'm also writing a book now, because again, I'm like, unleash creatively. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited right now, because I haven't really had a long talk about what this cycle has been like for me personally, and it's really exciting when you feel so aligned, that you really see it in action in your life. But because I'm enjoying myself doing things that I like now, I don't want to do my actual job. And so I've had to, struggle with that. It's like, I still got to bill so many hours. I still have to do that part, and so that but I can also add in this creative fun part. And so just working out that balance is a good example of how you're spending your time, or if you're just not spending enough time relaxing,
Yes.
That's super important. You got to give yourself, that time to just settle. And so if you're just burning the candle at both ends, then Saturn retrograde is all about, hey, slow that down, take a breath, and think about, what you're doing for yourself and for your body every day. For your mental health, for your spiritual health, all of it, especially with Saturn and Pisces. Are you giving yourself, your spirit, enough time, enough of you, enough of your consciousness to actually, evolve spiritually, which most people, I think, listening right now, we're all really want that. That's what we're all very focused on, is how we are evolving our soul. And so, but you got to put the time and you got to make the time for that. So that would be the Saturn retrograde.
I agree with that, with the evolution of your soul. It's I think sometimes we have the idea that it just happens magically.
Yeah.
Just one day when you're watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, then you have, then there's enlightenment.
Some kind of spiritual epiphany.
Exactly. And once again, this is a good reminder that you put the work and the time and the effort into that too.
Yeah. And whatever that looks like for you. I don't want anyone to feel pigeonholed into meditating or sitting, or it's not always about that. That does not work for me. So you got to find what works for you to connect to your soul. And for me, I have found that connection with my creative writing. So, that's what it looks like for me, but don't just say, oh, I got to meditate. If you can't meditate, you don't like meditating, it doesn't bring you peace. It's just a struggle. You can find other ways. You
can. And for some people, it's just another thing on the to-do list. So we do not need anything else on our to-do list. That's for sure.
Yeah. It could just be a bath, just a nice warm bath, whatever. But just figure that out for yourself, and don't let anybody else tell you how to relax and how to connect. And then I also mentioned Pluto. Pluto is also retrograde and has now moved back all the way into Capricorn. So we had our little dip into Aquarius, but that's over now. And we're not going to have it back in Aquarius till next year. So we're revisiting a lot of bullshit that you might have thought was over. And you're like, nope, there it is again. And it has to do with the way that you govern and structure your life and your whole being. And, you might feel like you fall off the wagon a little bit during this time. And if you do, and in any way that is true for you, just be okay with that. Everything has an ebb and a flow. We have to think about the tides. Look at how the tides work. It's so natural, and it's the inhale and an exhale and an inhale. It's all like this. And so, your stuff that comes up, like your trauma, that Pluto deep dark stuff, it's going to wash up because it needs attention, and then it's going to wash back. So don't freak out. Just let it come. Look at it. Remind yourself where you've, worked through it. Reevaluate that. Let that retrograde motion just let you, be easy with it. It's going to last for a while, And so, at least for till the end of the year, it's going to it's going to stay back in Capricorn. So it's going to be that time. And then, we see already how that's playing out in the country. And the only reason I bring up politics is because that Pluto return for the United States. And now we're ebbing back into it a little bit. We're going to dip a little. We're not going all the way back, but we're going toward it again. And so some more stuff, as we're seeing, is getting dug out, and it's going to keep coming. And obviously, I'm sure everyone's aware that we'll see what that looks like by the end of the year. So that'll be interesting.
Very interesting, especially with all the stuff coming out, with the Trump stuff and the indictments and all that. It's like, oh my goodness. And we just went back into retrograde. So
it's like that whole time to pay the
Piper?
For the Piper, and deal with the repercussions for all of us. For all of us, it's that way. So again, Capricorn's about integrity. So if you use Trump as an example, all the ways that he really, fucked up with his integrity and the integrity of our country and the integrity of the office of president, all of that is coming back now, and there's going to be consequences. And for our own selves, in ways that we betrayed our own integrity, and however that looks for you, you're going to revisit that, and that's okay. Again, remember, think of the ocean, and also, what does the ocean do? It makes beautiful shells glisten and sparkle, and it brings out the true beauty. And so you allow that to just wash over you, and it's going to bring out your true beauty. So just work with it, don't fight it. And that really is the theme, I think, for all retrogrades, is don't fight it. So in that sense, this whole summer and this whole next quarter is maybe about like just relaxing, like to the most you can in every way that you can. The next planet, which is coming up on the 30th, is Neptune. And so Neptune is got about a 5-month retrograde. And Neptune is still in Pisces, where it's been 4 years. It's been there forever. It's not going to be done for a bit. Neptune rules Pisces, so it's been a real time of spiritual excavation throughout these years that Neptune's been there. With this retrograde, it's a little bit more about paying closer attention to your inner world and your spiritual life, and your awareness of the ideal world that you might have in your mind, and how that is really like, we got to come out of the clouds a little bit. We need a little bit of adjustment when it comes to, are your dreams so out there that you're no longer living in the real world? And if that is costing you something, you need to pay attention to it. So sometimes you can get so carried away by a fantasy and by an illusion or a dream that you don't realize that you've now looked back and there's nothing behind you anymore, because you've gone so far out of reality that you're basically out there hanging now, and there's only a few others out there with you. And if you just need to get real about that. And in many ways, I'm talking about conspiracy theories and things like that, which have really run amok I treat this very delicately, because I too love some of these theories, and I do as well love being taken away by these thoughts that magical things are really happening, or that there's aliens actually here. Like, I want that as much as anyone, believe me. Like, I want that so bad. But there's so much going on right now about all this. I don't know, Renee, if you've been aware of all the news coming out around aliens, and people have gone way off in very far directions on these, and it's like, okay, just breathe through it. Like, don't lose your mind. I'll bring up something else that has really just happened this weekend. Renee, do you ever pay attention to the Schumann resonance?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Are you in on what just happened this weekend with it?
I am not. No.
I got it from TikTok, and I don't know if you're on TikTok.
I'm not.
So I don't know if you've probably seen what it looks like, right? Like,
absolutely, the chart.
Beautiful, green, blue, like waterfall graphic. And it gets lighter when it gets higher, and then it gets darker when it gets lower. And it's always looked the same, and it is getting higher and higher and higher. That is true. I mean, that is a measurable thing. They used to say 7 hertz or something was normal. Now it's like 100 something.
Yeah, megahertz. Yeah,
it got exactly up to 190 this weekend. And the chart that you normally are used to looking at a certain way, it's completely different, and it looks like sacred geometry. And it looks like DNA strands. I mean, you've got to Google this, or at least look on TikTok, or I'll send you a video.
Okay.
People are losing their minds over this. Like, I am not like completely specifically signed up for those types of accounts on TikTok. I keep my interests pretty varied, but I was getting TikTok after TikTok after TikTok, and people are freaking out. So there's a lot of people out there that have never heard of this. And now they're like, what's going on? And it's stirring up a lot of energy. And I just worry that, it could easily be a software glitch. It could easily be equipment malfunction. There's just a lot of things that also could be. And while I love, and in my heart, I'm like hoping that this is something wild, because of course people online are saying we're upgrading to 5D. And I'm like, well, what does that really mean, guys? And I don't want to disparage that belief. I think that all of that is really cool, and I love to learn about it. But just keep in mind that you gotta keep your feet on the ground too. You know what I'm saying, Renee?
I know exactly what you're saying. Yes, it's easy to get, even before, with all of this happening, it's easy to get swept up into our DNA is upgrading to 5D and the reality and all this. I'd like to just break it down into simple things, as we're kind of all just having a spiritual awakening because we've been trapped in our consumerism for so long. We're breaking out of that. So
yes. I believe something is happening. I absolutely do. But if you've been on the spiritual train, especially New Age spirituality, as long as you and I have, like I've been on this train since the early 90s.
Yep.
You become aware that these things happen all the time. Like everybody starts talking about a specific thing, and it raises the energy in the collective of this like spiritual community into this like state of frenzy. And then it doesn't necessarily play out in any way that anybody thought it would. And it doesn't mean that nothing happened. It just means that it didn't happen the way you might have hoped, or you might have seen it happen in a movie.
It's so true. And back in, I think it was like 12. That was another big thing, like a decade ago. And around this time, I remember all the talk about two realities. We're splitting into two realities. And you know what? We kind of did, just not in the way with the people that think one way about how our country is and the other way about how our country is. Those are right now two completely different realities, just not in the way that we had imagined, where everything would look differently. It's
the new earth thing. I've seen that. I've been there. I've talked about it. I've thought about it. I've read the books, Dolores Cannon, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I saw it completely turned on its head during the pandemic, when people say, if you get the vaccine, you don't go to New Earth. And then I was like, fuck you all. Like, you got to spoil this for everyone. Like, just hold on to your head.
So thank you, Neptune retrograde, for that, huh? A little reality check to bring us kind of back down.
That. I just want to say, like, calm down. Calm down. Something is happening. I think never is nothing happening. But, I just know that when you're on that train and then it doesn't pan out the way you thought, you kind of break a little. It kind of breaks you a little. It kind of disappoints you. It kind of, and it's like that, those emotions, being on that emotional roller coaster with all of this stuff, it can exhaust you spiritually. That's my advice, and why I'm playing this so hard. So it will exhaust you and deplete you spiritually, because you'll get your hopes up and then they're dashed, and you get your hopes up. I mean, I hate to make the comparison, but look at QAnon. All those people had really strong beliefs in this thing, and they're all broken now. They're broken people now, and it's sad. It's sad. And so we just have to remember that we're in this for the long haul. Keep your head. You still live in a body. You're still on the planet Earth. Right. And we're here because we wanted to be flesh. So be flesh. Okay. Did I beat that one to death?
You got it, Deb. Thank you.
All right. I got into that. Woo! I kind of got into that. All right. So then that's the end of June. And then we have until July 22nd, when Venus does a retrograde. Now, Venus is not, it's every 18 months. So it's not something that happens like Mercury, 3 times a year. You have Venus retrograde natally, which I always mention because we've talked about this many times. People with Venus retrograde have a really good sense of self-worth and a really big acceptance of who they are. It's just more aligned that, you love yourself, you get yourself, and you put your relationship with yourself over all others. So that's healthy self-esteem, healthy, a healthy, what's self-worth, values, all of that. I'm losing my words. So what that means for the rest of us, though, when it is retrograde, is that we do have that chance to reevaluate how we give and receive love. Okay. Venus is tied to relationships, which obviously are tied to love. And this all unites around values, shared values. Shared values is a bridge to love. When you meet someone and you have a date, or even for a friendship and you have a coffee, you're going to bring up the things you care about. And you're going to see, do they care about them too? Oh, they do care about, global warming. And I care about that a lot. Oh, they are vegan and I am vegan. Oh, we both care about that a lot. That builds a common frequency of energy exchange between you, which starts to spin and starts to connect, and it creates chemistry. And that's when you fall in love. So that's how this works with values, and how we tie Venus, which we always think of as your value system, but it's also tied to love. So I don't know if anyone's ever thought about it like that before, but that's something kind of new I've been thinking about with Venus, trying to figure out, why do we call it love? Why does Venus rule that? It's good to ask these questions. So it is a lot about reclaiming your power in love, as well as over material matter. So Venus is also what you own, like your values and valuables. So your valuables in your home, things you possess, your finances, all of that, time to reassess it. Check in on your 401k, look at your bank account balances, do a really good clear check on your credit card balances. Is it getting out of hand? These are things that Venus retrograde, it's very practical and kind of boring, but it's really important that we all do that, because are you up to date with your taxes? Like, lots of people don't file their taxes because it's just too much for them. But that will bite you hard. And so you gotta check in on these things. And summer isn't the best time to be doing that. Nobody really wants to think about that in summer, but this is when it's happening. So, all right. So then around the same time, which is around July 22nd, 23rd, Eris is going retrograde. Now, Eris is a planet that I'm always trying to push on people, because it is a new planet we discovered in 2005. And Eris rules conflict and strife, discord, and also rules the marginalized issues with marginalized people. So it rules all of that energy around the haves and the have-nots. Okay. It also rules energy around the whistleblower and the person that's willing to create strife and chaos and discord in order to speak truth to power. Okay. So it's your inner rebel rouser. And it's been in Aries for a very long time. It's going to be in Aries. I think it might move into Taurus in our lifetimes, but Aries has a really oblong orbit. So it stays in Aries most of the time. So basically, this is about reevaluating your relationship with conflict and reassessing all the power dynamics in your life. Okay. So how do you deal with conflict? Are you straightforward? Or sometimes, you might need some more conflict in your life, because you got to speak up for yourself. You got to whistle blow anywhere in your life that you're like, hey, you got to call it out. And that takes courage. But Aries is the sign of courage. So it's there for us. And I think, it's a lot of that energy is behind a lot of the whistleblowing that's been going on, and the whole Me Too thing. All of that has been coming out of Eris becoming more and more present as a frequency in our lives on planet Earth. The more we talk about it, the more we integrate it, the more we study it and pay attention to the shifts that we've seen since the discovery of Eris. We're starting to learn more and more and more about how it plays out in our lives. And that's personally what I see is all of speaking truth to power and all the equality issues. It's all Eris stuff. So this summer, it's you really, really want to look at how you handle conflict and chaos and discord in your own life, and decide if that's okay with you, the way you're playing it, and if you need to speak up a little, this is the chance to dig deep and find the courage to do that, to speak your truth to power, to shake, to speak even when your voice shakes, all of that stuff. So if you've been mistreated, maybe in your job, or mistreated in a relationship, or you're aware of something really horrible that's hurting people, that's happening, that needs to be spoken to, this is your chance.
This is the time. Yep.
Okay. And it's also about, what you fight for and what you let push you around. So it's how you deal with bullies, basically. And we all have that energy in our lives, whether we have real live bullies or we have conceptual bullies or ideological bullies, whatever's bullying you around, it's time to just say enough and do what needs to be done, even if it causes chaos. Most of us don't choose this because we don't want chaos, but you will have it worse if you don't deal with it now. And I think everybody knows that.
Yeah, good point and good reminder. Yes.
Another reminder. All right. So then the next day, right around the same time, Chiron goes retrograde.
Oh my gosh.
So Chiron is our healing, all right, and it's our internal healing of like our deep wounds, the wounds that we have assessed, amassed through our lives, even past lives, like the wounded soul. So we're talking about generational trauma is what we're talking about. It's all of that. And so Chiron is in Eris as well. And so it is really about identity healing. So now we've seen so many cool things come out of identity over the concept of identity in the last decade. All of the trans community finally more and more coming out and being who they are and being so fucking brave to just say who they are and be who they are and deal with the pushback. I mean, wow, it's exhausting to me. I'm not trans. It's exhausting to me what I keep seeing and what trans people are having to deal with. My partner is trans and my child is trans. And so obviously I'm very worried about the way trans people are being treated. So that's just an example of identity. And the reason I brought it up is because if you are out there on a limb in the trans community, this is a chance for you to focus on healing and catching up, because you've probably been like put down and put down and put down and put down your whole fucking life. And you need a break and you need to love yourself and you need to be so fucking proud of yourself for being so brave as to risk your life to be who you are. I mean, it's everything. It's everything. And so, and even if you're not trans and you still are not being who you are in this world, you're not living authentically, this is a chance you need to heal from what you've been through. You need to do something really, really kind for yourself. Get therapy, get a massage, go out on a vacation where you can just sit and reflect and be quiet, or read a novel that makes you happy. Just do something that allows you to just put down the armor for a minute and take a break.
Nice.
It'll wear you out if you don't.
If you don't, yeah.
So think about all of these retrogrades. Now think back to 30 minutes ago, and I was talking about Saturn and Pluto. These are all stacking.
Yeah.
None of these end. These are all, so by the time we get to Chiron, we have 6 planets retrograde at the same time. And then we just keep adding. Then in the end of August, Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo. And now we know that we're used to Mercury retrograde, but retrograde in Virgo, it rules Virgo. So it's more potent. Mercury rules Virgo. It's more potent. And it's really going to be about organizing your life, both inside and outside. Look at your desk, your workspace. Maybe it needs a refresher, a fresher, so you can feel better at when you work it all day. Like things are clean. Like I know my just gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. So it's time to just clean. That's what Mercury retrograde's for. Clean out your paperwork, do your shredding, and then also revamp your diet, your health. Virgo is a lot about perfection. And while that can make you neurotic, so you don't want to allow this energy to make you too neurotic, it is all about health as well. So go to your doctor, do your doctor things in September. It'll be a great time to do it.
Good to know. Yep.
All right. Then a few days later, we have Uranus going retrograde in Taurus. So Uranus, I know, I've got one more after this too. Uranus calls forth an inward revolution. So if all that wasn't enough, now it's time to have a fucking revolution.
Inward though.
But inward, yeah. So what does that mean? What is a revolution? What is that? Okay, a revolution usually happens when there's disparity between, mistreatment or power. It's usually typically in a country, you think about the people forming, the students getting together, the people, and fighting back against the government and or the king or whoever, and saying you aren't. We want someone else, or we don't like the way you've been treating us, and it can be bloody and, revolution. I think we know, but now how does that inside you? And especially in the sign of Taurus. Okay. So it is a period to reassess your personal and collective progress towards freedom and individuality. Okay. So how free are you? Are you feeling like you're imprisoned by any aspect of your life? Are you feel like you're being put down or being imprisoned unfairly by any aspect of your life? Anything that feels not right to you? And boy, that's not right. This works very well with Eris. Okay.
Yeah.
Eris is a little bit more, with Eris, it's a little bit more chaotic, and it's a little bit more righteous. Like really righteous. Like I'm calling out, something that's been happening that's hurting people, and I'm calling it out. This is more like in your own life, where are you completely imprisoned by some other aspect of your life? And it's time to just, check in with that. Like open that jail cell and be like, how you doing? Get enough bread and water, hey, would you like to be free from this? And then maybe you do. And maybe it's worth it. And maybe it's time. So just check in anywhere that you feel you're in shackles. It could be so many different things, right?
Right.
So it could be where you live. It could be who you're with. It could be your job. It could be your house. It could be so many different things, but just look at it. You may not want to make any changes, but you got to look at it. All right. So then finally wrapping it up in early September is Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. So Jupiter is all about aspirations and abundance and where you're seeking growth, where you want to be bigger, where you want to play harder, where you want to show up more. And anything that you wish for yourself to be true. So it's a time to kind of, and in Taurus, I might add, this is with a material focus. So, this can be like that car I want, that house I want, that vacation I want. It's material, it's Taurus. Okay. Now you got to look at that and say, is the growth that I'm experiencing right now with this thing sustainable? So if you've put yourself on a path towards achieving something that you want, or maybe you already have it, is your relationship with that going to sustain you, or is it going to run out? That's large terms, but that's basically thinking like if you had a bank account, and you just, you keep taking what's the word, Renee?
Withdrawals. Yes.
And you're not looking at the balance, but you feel like, hey, I'm working, I'm throwing money in there, but you're not ever looking at your balance, doing a balance check. You could be in real trouble. You might not have rent for, November.
Right.
Do you have rent or are your payments covered for November? Are you so enjoying the growth and the abundance that you're not checking your balance? So that's going to be really important. It's also a chance to reevaluate any of your attitudes around money and possessions, and are they abundant or not? Do you have a scarcity mentality? A lot of people have probably heard the scarcity versus abundance mentality. If you're living in scarcity, it's time to get out of that. So that this is just going to be a good time. It's early September again. So
wow.
I'm exhausted. I have to take off my shirt.
And it's so interesting how I'm looking back now at the notes of everything you said.
I know it's a lot.
All internal. It seems like most of it's internal about us.
Retrograde. That's what retrograde is.
Yes.
That's what it's for. So this summer is wrapped up like a big present for all of us, for ourselves this is every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Everybody,
like no joke, every aspect of life.
That's what it looks like, right? Like 9 different frequencies, 9 planets, all going inward.
Wow. Just think though, at the end of when we come out of all these retrogrades, we're going to be completely different people, upgraded people.
Likely.
Yep.
I mean, who knows what, and we're all going to get ejected by, let's see. Well, there'll still be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets by the time we get to the middle of October when we have a solar eclipse.
Okay.
Solar eclipse.
Okay.
In Libra. So, and that's about when the time we'll be talking again.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
So, and even then there will still be 6 retrograde by then.
From having 9, 6 feels like a piece of cake.
Yeah. And I don't have my chart open to be on that. So I can't tell you when they're all go direct, but I just don't think that matters.
It doesn't matter right now.
We're right at the beginning of this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you got to commit, you got to surrender. You got to let the undertow take you down and just let your body go limp. And just, if you fight against it, it's just going to beat you up back like it happens when you get rolled by a wave. We've all been there. I think if you've been in the ocean, you've been rolled by a wave, and if you fight it, you're going to get bruised.
You are.
Again, using that metaphor of the ocean, both with the ebb and the flow and what that does and how important that is. And we're just having that on a major scale.
I think you hit the nail on the head with surrender, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. God, the word of the summer, surrender.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And let yourself enjoy the summer too.
Yes.
A lot going on, but all of this is internal. This is all stuff you can be doing while you're laying out.
Good point. In the hammock.
All of this while you're just laying there.
Yep.
Wherever you want to be, if it's in a hammock by the river or on the beach by the ocean, or who knows, where on your couch
in Montana with Renee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wherever that is, just let yourself just get worked out, and don't resist it. And if stuff comes up, stuff might come out of the woodwork in your life. People might come out of the woodwork. Old relationships, old stories, old trauma. It could all come up, and it most likely all will come up in some way over this whole process. When you think about it, Saturn is how you spend your time. Pluto is that deep trauma. Neptune is, question your reality and your illusions about life. Venus, reassess your relationships and your value system. Eris, what horrible truth needs to be spoken out to power that is causing pain. Chiron, your own identity healing. Mercury, your communication and organization. Uranus, that inward revolution, and Jupiter, your aspirations and your abundance. Like, that's a lot.
That is a lot. That is a lot. The summer of surrender. Thank you so much, Deb. One other thing that I want to mention that I have really been enjoying your podcast. Like, you've been coming on my podcast for years. Yes. And you started a podcast probably when all the planets were direct.
I did.
Was it that when you started it? Yes.
Yeah, that was my goal.
Called Cosmic Disruption. And
disruption,
yes, it's so good. I learn so much every time I talk to you or hear you talk or read your emails or all of that. So I think everybody would enjoy it. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes.
Great. Yes.
To that and the email. And you can get both of those on your website too, right?
Everything's on my website. I have a podcast link. You can just join my newsletter easily through the contact. I've got lots of actual learning you can do on my site. I've got every planet, every sign, every house with beautiful AI art. It's gorgeous. I've had such a good time with it. I really just wanted to get that out to people so that they have a place they can look and be like, what is Aries? What is, because especially if you're still learning, it's a good place to go and just check in and see just what things are and how they fit together in this amazing, tapestry basically that astrology is. And then my podcast, if I can mention, that's with my sister Karen.
I know,
and you guys are such a good time.
You're so good.
So that's super fun, and it's brought us a lot closer together. And we basically just grapple with strangeness. And and obviously astrology as well. So, we talk about, reality tunnels and predictive processing and all this cool metaphysical stuff. And we're just learning along with you. So it's just a lot of fun. And, we love to just talk about life too, really.
Well, one thing that you and I have been doing now for years, I don't even know what year this is, three or four, is every winter solstice, we have been offering this package that we do where people can get an hour astrology reading with you and an hour talking with spirit guides and spiritual mentoring with me. And we discount the shit out of it just because, this is a really good time when we have the summer solstice and the winter solstice to catch up on your life and hit the reset button. And especially after hearing what's coming for this summer, this would be a really good time to take advantage of this. We're calling it the solstice sale this time, summer solstice sale. Both things for $225. So great
that's a really good deal.
It's a really good deal. As I'm sitting here like, why did we make it so cheap? Whatever.
Well, we want it to be accessible, don't we?
We do. Yeah. We really do, because you can really gain some insight into your life and what's going on with you and have some clarity about what's happening.
Find out where all these retrogrades are happening in your chart. Which house, like what part of your life?
Yes.
And it gets real dialed in for you when you have an idea of what your chart looks like.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do without you being able to tell me, hey, Renee, this is happening over here. Hey, Renee. Even on here when you're like, hey, Renee, remember your Venus is retrograde,
Yes. I know. I remember, I think I have your chart imprinted on my brain. See it in my mind's eye.
You definitely know more about it than I do. That's for sure. So I will put a link in the show notes for that sale too. It's only through June 27th. So, take advantage of it quickly if you're going to do that. A link to Deborah's website with all her goodies on there. And thank you so much. I love talking with you, but I love also learning what's coming up, what to expect. Yes. And the summer of surrender. I love it.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.